Peppa Pig, the door in the attic. It all started with a barely audible creak. It echoed early in the morning when Peppa wasn't fully awake yet. The sound didn't come from outside nor from downstairs. It came from above. At first, she thought it was just the wind or an old pipe, but then it came again, long, drawn out like someone slowly opening a very heavy door. Daddy Pig said there was nothing in the attic. "You probably heard the roof settling," he chuckled. But Peppa frowned. Their house didn't have an attic, or rather, it once did, but the hatch was removed, sealed, painted over. There was supposed to be nothing up there. But the next morning, the hatch appeared. Right above the staircase in the ceiling, there was now a square wooden trapdoor, old, darkened, with peeling paint. And the strangest thing, it swayed gently, as if someone had just climbed in or out. Peppa called for Mummy. Mummy looked up and said, "It's always been there. You just didn't notice." But there was no certainty in her voice, not a bit. Peppa didn't leave the hatch all day. She heard something rustling inside, like a sack being slowly dragged across the floor, or chains. Sometimes she heard soft, unnatural laughter, too high-pitched for an adult, too deep for a child. That evening, after everyone had gone to bed, she heard the creak again, but this time not from the hatch, from the room itself. The floor groaned, the closet door creaked open slightly, and a shadow darted along the wall. George clung to her and whispered, "Don't open it. Please." The next day, Peppa was home alone, and she couldn't resist. She pushed a stool under the hatch, tugged the handle, and it opened by itself. There was no ladder inside, but the attic wasn't very high. She pulled herself up and climbed in. There was only dust, an old box labeled "Do Not Open," and another door. It stood in the far corner of the attic, tall, black, with a tiny brass handle. Peppa knew this door was never here before. She pulled the handle. It opened. Behind it was a corridor, endless, narrow. The wooden floor creaked under her steps. From the darkness came children's voices, snippets of songs, giggles, sobbing. Someone's name whispered far too close. Drawings lined the walls. One showed a girl with empty eyes. Another showed a family standing in a circle, with something clawed and masked in the center. At the very end of the corridor stood a girl. She looked like Peppa. "You came," she said. "I've been waiting." "Who are you?" asked Peppa. "I'm the one who will stay, and you're inside now." Peppa screamed. She ran back, but the door was gone. She ran and ran until she lost consciousness. She woke up in her bed, at home. Everything seemed normal, but the air wasn't right. Quiet, too quiet. Daddy Pig called her down for breakfast. Mummy smiled, but her smile was stiff, and George just stared at her in silence. He whispered to himself, "That's not her. That's not her." Peppa acted as usual. She laughed, played, watched TV, but in the mirror her reflection moved a fraction of a second too late, and when she smiled, the shadow behind her didn't copy it. That night, the attic creaked again, and by morning the house was empty. The door in the ceiling was gone, but in the attic, behind that black door, in the endless corridor, someone opened their eyes. Outside, in Peppa's body. And now she lives in the house, while the real Peppa remains inside.